I think, in a way, I'm glad. It's kind of a rite of passage to every year you make something, you apply to Sundance, and you either apply to a lab or you apply to the film festival, and it's almost expected you don't get in. And so it was kind of, this was the one year where I was like really not expecting to get in and wasn't making the movie at all with that in the back of my head. Like in the group that was with me were a lot of people who have already had experience and were already in the field for a while, including the cast side. But the vibe was very much like, we got 18 days to be passionate and do and make a movie. Let's just make a movie. And so when I got in, I was like, gee, it's kind of nice that I got in now, you know, and not the years where I wanted to get in so bad I wanted to cry. You know, there were years where I would sob, like, oh God, I want to get in. So, like, literally, like, I got to get in, I just got to get in. And so to me, I'm like, thank God I didn't get in when I really thought I had to get in or I would die. You know, thank God I got in the year where I made a movie to make a movie, because the most important thing is to make your art, and that has to remain the most important thing.
Hi, I'm Eric Wareheim.
I'm Tim Heidecker.
I'm Rick Alverson.
Rick Alverson.
Well, for us, we went to film school, and I personally, probably Tim too, we wanted to be direct as our main, or make things, but going through the film school process, you know, you learn all aspects of it. And when we started creating short films together, you know, there's no script. It sort of just happened, kind of improvisation, and over time we learned that if you want a producer to know where you're going to shoot, you need to put it on paper somehow. You know, that's sort of how we got into formal screenwriting.
We had done several sketches on our own, small short films, but the first legitimate television work we got was to this cartoon called Tom Goes to the Mayor, which was a narrative. It was a narrative show. It was every week a story occurred, and we had to learn very quickly how to write stories that had, although the show veered away from traditional structure all the time, we still needed to understand it and make it work, you know, and certain tools that are absolutely universal no matter what you're trying to do, that you have to learn and use when you're writing.
My name is Philippe Falardeau. I'm the director of Monsieur, Lazhar. Monsieur Lazhar is the story of an Algerian immigrant in Montreal who becomes a replacement teacher after the tragic death of the teacher in an elementary school. It sounds so dark, but it's not. It is not a dark film, it's a luminous film. Actually, I ended up making films by accident because I studied in political science and international relations. And in the 1990s, early 1990s, I participated in a television show called The Race Around the World, where they would choose 8 young contestants and have them run around the world alone with a SVHS camera making short films. So that changed my life, basically. And today I've made 4 feature films in French in Montreal. And I'm making a living out of it, and sometimes I have to pinch myself. And I'm also script writing my films. I became a writer after this fact, and if someone asked me, are you more a writer, a script writer, or a filmmaker, I don't know how to answer that. I think I'm more a filmmaker, although I can't see myself shooting film written by someone else, although it's probably going towards that way because it's a long process. If you want to write a film and direct it, it's 3 years in the making.
Basically, what happened is I went to NYU to School of the Arts for dramatic writing, and when I graduated as a screenwriter, I was shocked and appalled that frame line, or I was shocked and appalled that fine line didn't want to read my script, and I was too impatient to wait. It's not even that you don't get a no when you're a new screenwriter, it's that you might not even get your script read. And out of necessity of just wanting to create something, I slowly learned field producing, and that's how I became more of a picture editor, and then finally a director. I just couldn't take waiting around for someone to read something. So that's how I ended up becoming a director. And not necessarily out of necessity to control my own words, but just out of necessity to suddenly have the epiphany that so many scripts just simply won't get read unless they're kissed in by someone already attached. And if you're a brand new screenwriter out the gate, it's really hard to even get eyes on a script. So for me, it was more empowering and proactive to literally learn how to make movies than wait for someone to read a script.
Hi, I'm Christopher Ford, screenwriter of Robot and Frank here at Sundance, and here with the International Screenwriters Association. I didn't know I wanted to be a writer right away. I knew I love movies, and you know, coming up with the story was always a huge part of it. I did some acting stuff too, and then at NYU, I fell so much more in love with the writing process and that area, and just being able to use your imagination and solve problems and, you know, work the scripts. And then when it came to going to shoot it, it's like, oh, let those guys do it. Let's focus in on the writing.
Hello, my name is Mads. I'm the director of Teddy Bear, who is here at the Sundance Film Festival in the World Dramatic Competition, and I'm here with the Screenwriters, International Screenwriters Association. For the most part, it started out by learning by doing, you know, just writing it and see how it worked out, and then, you know, whole dramatic structure and reading more about that and trying it out and see how it worked. And so and then later, of course, film school and stuff like that. But as I say, you know, you can't learn about filmmaking without doing it yourself, you know, without writing, putting it, you know, seeing how your written stuff is transformed to the screen. I mean, that's what you learn the most of, you know. I mean, reading about all these people and learning about techniques and structure and all that, it can only help you a certain way or to a certain extent, you know. You gotta see how it works on the screen, you know.
Because we can, if you want to say, when did I stop writing the movie and start making the movie? It's like, where do you draw that distinction? Like, writing kind of occurs throughout the whole process up until your sound mix, in a way. I mean, if you're, you know, or you can just change the word writing to making your movie. And part of making your movie is putting down a bunch of ideas on paper that is going to be your blueprint, or your sort of your guide to shooting your movie. You know, I mean, I think none of us come from a tradition of writing a script and then shooting the script as it's written. You know, the script is like a jumping off point. It's like, okay, this is at least gives the producers some things to do to set up the day. And helps, you know, obviously it's very helpful in us trying to imagine what the film's going to be, but
And gives us certain boundaries and limitations that allow you to do something and work within them.
And to be honest, that script, you know, the improvised nature of the shoot drew us to this project. You know, it's the idea of putting these particular guys in this room. I was like, this is going to be cool. What's going to come out of here?
I think I come up with ideas for stories that probably are more distant from me, like coming up with a cool idea for a robot or a horror movie concept, and then I try to work back in and find some connection to a more, you know, human level that has to come from me. So with Robot and Frank, I had the idea of the robot and the old man. I was thinking about that relationship, and I was thinking about my own grandparents, seeing what my parents were going through. So, but I think I do start with, you know, something more like a concept and less of a personal idea.
I think, you know, stories, in a way, at least what I work and how I build my work up, is like they need to be personal in a certain extent, but I don't want them to be private, you know. I try to make stories that are kind of out there. Of course, they have something of me in them, but they shouldn't be too private. Or else I won't be able to work with them or deal with them or see how they work and stuff. But most of all, my ideas come from, you know, just some kind of intuitive, that is a good story. You know, with this Teddy Bear, it was just like, okay, this huge bodybuilder guy, you know, who lives with his mom. He's way too old to live with his mom, and he's very insecure and hard with women, and, you know, that was just like, wow. I saw that picture for me. It's very intuitive, the stories. Where do stories come from? Where do ideas come from? It's just something. Suddenly something is just there, you know, and I think, but they're definitely personal in a sense, you know. Somewhere far away, they have to have something connected to my heart, you know. They have to hook me, you know. So they need to be something I understand, you know. There's a reason why I get the ideas I get, and they're from somewhere inside, you know.
I've been working with the same producer, so I only pitch my film to him, and we have this relationship. I find that I'm like playing with the same hockey player on the same line. I always know where he is, and he knows where I am. So it's a great working relationship. So he saw the play the same day, and because it was a one-man play on stage, and I said, "That's our next project." He said, "What?" "Give me a month and I'll figure it out." And then I wrote a synopsis, and we worked from there.
Writing for me is like, it's different than it used to be, especially when you're working with unscripted dialogue. You know, I mean, casting is so important and part of the process and the raw materials of the thing, and the collaboration with those people, and you know, there's the initial concepts, and then there's the implementation of those concepts in particular environments. I mean, I consider that all, you know, it isn't just sitting at a keyboard. And the evolution of those things, and that attentiveness, so that they evolve. You know, I mean, if you're not going to script dialogue, then you need to be elastic and attentive, because if you're not, it's sort of, you're missing the point. I mean, insofar as like it's a 18-20 page, treatment or script without dialogue, and I mean, that was written. You know, it kept being rewritten, and then at some point, you know, the edit ultimately rewrote everything. You know, after the collaboration, I mean, the collaborations, and you know, seeing essentially just being, I mean, again, attentiveness and not having a too rigid, you know, set of expectations for the thing. I mean, I think that kills, you know, any life, and has in so many movies.
I think a lot of times people will say, like, I write for myself, or, you know, my art's for me, and I think that's not true for me. But it really is the cliche thing of like, but if one person likes it, that's enough, and that's very true. I remember one time I showed a one-page, you know, fiction piece to a friend on the bus, and she read it, and then she was like, wow, and she handed it back, and then she was like, can I read that again? And it, you know, just, I think that writing for me was a way for me to reach out with my own point of view. You know, I think some people use a megaphone, or some people are activists, or some people are politicians, and for me, writing was the way to kind of reach out to people and present my point of view, but also connect people through a very specific point of view that's much more universal.
Well, I mean, I think there's a difference between knowing how to tell a story and having found a voice. And I think I'm still finding what my voice would be as a screenwriter. And it's different for every project. I mean, with Robot and Frank, I kind of, you know, started in with the concept, you know, of the robot and the old man, just from research, and then connected that with my own life, and then just followed where the story led. So if I just stick to the story, you know, and be honest with that initial idea, see where it goes, and try to, you know, delve deep and find something in it. In the end, hopefully it'll be a good script, and the voice will just be there. You know, I don't really think about that when I'm writing something. But then I'm also writing like a horror movie concept that's very, very different from Robot and Frank. So maybe they'll have similarities of my voice, but I just try to focus on the concept and staying true to the initial moment.
I think it's important that, you know, Teddy Bear I wrote with another, actually he's another director, but he's also a scriptwriter like me, and it's very important for me to be in a team around this. I mean, writing, especially when I'm going to direct it. So I tend to kind of work with people in the script writing phase, even though I finish it up, you know, the whole talking about ideas and seeing different scenes, seeing different perspectives on stuff, you know, it can be hard alone, you know, doing the whole writing alone. So I think it's important to, for me at least, it's important to have someone with me discussing stuff.
Collaboration.
Yeah, and that's also in the directing phase, you know, talking about the DOP and, you know, and talking with the actors, talking with, you know, it's so important to have someone to lighten some things so you don't go into a narrow road, and I don't think that's good, you know. You got to keep your eyes open, and you need input all the way, you know. So I think it's kind of nice to talk with, have someone to and also, you know, just showing your stuff. Then I send it to like the script to 5 trustees, you know, so they can read and get some inputs. I think of course, it's very important to get inputs all the way through the editing phase and the whole thing, you know. So I'm kind of open about everything, you know, for the few trusted people that I know understand me and what I want to do and all that stuff.
Because one of my favorite filmmakers is Billy Wilder, and so I grew up with kind of a classic kind of comic pacing and, you know, really kind of clean structure, but the landscape of my experience usually offers up more naturalistic casting and more kind of understated storylines. So, you know, it's like Quiz in a trailer park, or, you know, but with pacing that might feel a little more conventional. So for me, I always, I never write with a genre in mind. I just naturally, a line might come to me or a character might come to me, and everything, the constellation of plot points start building out from character. But usually I don't come up with a concept or a plot first. A line comes, and then I'm like, that person would say it, and then out of necessity, the entire story grows, and the entire character conflict grows out of that person. So I would say, for the most part, most of the stuff I write is character-driven for sure. I mean, for me, there's 2 different sides to me, because there's the person that wants to present personal voice no matter what, and then the fun thing about screenwriting, though, is you have to take it really not personally. And you do have to have the efficiency of a doctor who's like, you know, if you want to live, we got to lose that leg, you know. And it's fun to have both sides to me of that. And I think, you know, a lot of times screenwriters are notorious for not letting go of their words. And it's nice to be a director where I'm like, doesn't work, let's get rid of it. Slows it down, let's get rid of it. And then on top of that, I've done picture editing. And so I'll be even more brutal. I'm like, it's okay, it can go. So it's fun to have the efficient side of screenwriting, which is, once again, very much more based on a blueprint, and then you build everything out around it. But at the same time, I think what makes a blueprint not just a blueprint is having, you know, personal perspective and really believing in what you're talking about. And so for me, when I write, it's fun to nurture both those sides of myself. It is a definite craft which takes years and years and years, and then there's a side where you just present your voice.
Now, we were here last year with a short film. It's a very different schedule than last year. We're quite busy with our movies, trying to promote them and talk about them, and you know, make sure people see them and spread the word that it's available to watch. Yeah.
Coming, you know, for me, Sundance, coming from where I'm coming from, you know, my age has always been there, kind of. So it's like a, you know, I can't believe I'm here. Honestly, it's like a pedestal. Like, what the hell, Robert Redford? So the fact that we're here is kind of incredible. Yeah, I mean, you know, it's Sundance. I mean, I don't think anyone has to be coerced into thinking this is going to be a good idea to try to get involved with their movie. Yeah.
I just arrived, so I'm kind of a little bit jet lagged, and but I'm so ready for it. And you know, the whole getting here and stuff. The whole first day has been wonderful. And now we have the world premiere here in an hour, so it's going to be great. You know, it's going to be great.
I had setbacks during the film, like any of my film. You know, François Truffaut used to say, when I start a film, I want to make the best film possible. And when he's shooting the film, he's saying, I just want to finish the film and make it, you know, a whole. So it's the same thing for me. And you can't complain about this job, even if it's tough, because I think we're part of privileged people.
And so, you know, if I was going to give anyone advice who is just dying to get into Sundance to the point where they think they're going to die, ironically enough, I'd say, like, don't even worry about it. Like, you know, the currency or the thing that's most important is the fact that you're making art, and the thing that stops people from making art is the fear that they won't be rewarded. And so making the art, you know, is the reward.